Before we click on go live,
Yeah.
we don't
Wait,
need
it's
to
not
do the...
popping up. It's not popping up.
Okay, all right.
Hang on. I have everything connected. I'm not sure why. What should we do? I'm just checking now. Live stream. It's on. Let me just put that back there.
There might be a
Yeah,
delay with
here we go. We're live. Right. Okay. It's connected.
We are live. Okay, so
we are live now. Here we go. We're in business.
yes, I can see us. Hello to everyone who's here with us today. This is Jean-Marie Caillaud from WorkMeTender.
Hello, and I am John Hazelton of the Holistic Recruiter Club. It's good to have you all here. Sorry for the technical glitch at the beginning. We're still trying to get used to how to connect live with all these like connections and stuff. What are we talking about today, Jean-Marie?
Well, we're talking about data-driven recruitment. What a very important topic. And I'd say even more important because I can see a lot of people talking more and more about using feeling in recruitment, whereas I thought that was a topic that was like cleared out of the picture for a while. It seems that it's back in business.
It's gaining some more traction again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, that's an interesting topic. I think that we can do more than one live on this one. But I think that let's talk about feeling. I feel like recruitment is doing cycles. Like, you know, this is kind of still an entry-level job for a lot of people who are getting into recruitment and moving into HR. I'm not saying that it has to be, because I know lots of very senior recruiters. You and I, we love recruitment. But so a lot of people are moving out of recruitment onto another job, maybe HR, maybe sales, I don't know. And so new people are coming in and they ask themselves the same question we asked ourselves a few years ago. And so these questions are back on the table.
Yeah.
But so that means that we have to give better answers.
Yeah.
Because if the answers were good enough, then the question should have been dealt with already.
Exactly.
And so I think data-driven recruitment, I mean, working with data when you hire people is one of the best answers we have on the market at the moment. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's the same. It's like anything. My mum's a school teacher and she always says whatever you were teaching 20 years ago just comes back round again. There's cycles of stuff and they just think they've reinvented it and it's just come back round of ideas. And I think it's just a general cycle of people are running out of ideas. But I thought that maybe we could kick off with starting out. What does it mean to be data-driven in your decisions, right? Because like a lot of us, probably the first place that we discovered it was when we started working in a tech startup, right? This data-driven mentality. And everything is about data and how do you choose the right metrics? And the right metrics for us in recruitment when we were starting out was how many calls can you make? How much time are you spending on the phone?
How many people did you talk to today, John?
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought if we just start off, and I think the best summary of what it just means to be data-driven in your decisions is how do you make choices based on evidence and data instead of intuition and gut feeling and your personal experiences? Because then it takes out any kind of like bias from it. I do think, to add to this though, that all good ideas can come from your gut and your feeling, but make sure you're backing it up with the data to be sure you've just got not like a recency bias or you have things happening around you and you suddenly see something that's not there, right?
I think this has a lot to do with a field that, you know, I like. This is a lot to do with psychology, actually. You know that the brain uses data because we process information, and it's like we process data. But you always tell me if you have bad data in, you have bad data out.
No, you're being too nice. It's shit in is shit out. This is exactly the term.
How you say it.
That's what the developers always tell me anyway.
But you know what? If you don't have, it's not about only having data or the right data. If you don't have data, your brain still uses whatever it has around it to make decisions. How does that work? Let me tell you about an experiment that I love. We took two groups of people. I mean, big groups, big enough so the experiment is valid. And they were in separate rooms, no phone, no whatever. And they were asked a simple question, like, at what age, I mean, how old was Gandhi when he died? How old do you think he was? So if I ask you about Gandhi, John, what does it look like, Mahatma Gandhi?
Small,
in your mind?
Small, quite skinny.
Okay. If you're watching this video, try to visualize him. So
yeah, like if I can think, like maybe like I see a small skinny guy, not very imposing, but this is the image that I have, and quite old. I imagine him old,
quite old, like great white hair and
with glasses as well, right? Yeah, if I remember.
That's it. Yeah. So, and this is most of the information we have. I mean, except that if we have a super like fan of history of the topic, you wouldn't guess at how old he was when he died. So we asked the same question to those two groups. How old do you think he was when he died? And we give you one clue, but the clue is not the same in the two rooms, you see. So first room, we say Gandhi died after he was 9 years old.
Okay.
So do you think that's a useful clue?
Super helpful.
No. So that's bad information. You said that about the data is shit in, shit out. It's shit data. It's not relevant information at all. But we give it to you nevertheless. Second room, we tell you, okay, I give you an information. He died before he was 140 years old. What do you think about that?
It's super not helpful at all.
Not helpful at all. Not relevant data, bad data. Nevertheless, after that, we ask everybody to like give an estimate of the age of death of Gandhi, and we do an average. And what we could see is in the room where we said he died after he was 9 years old, the answer was something around 50. I might not have the perfect number in mind, but the answer was around 50. And when we said he died before 140 years old, the answer was around 67. So, and the difference statistically was significant, which means that when you don't have the correct information, you still rely on the information that you have. And this is how the brain works. So this is why it's super, super important to have the right data when you recruit. It's the same. This is why you do structured interview. This is why you need to, it's your responsibility to get the right data, because if you don't have the right data, you will make a decision that's based on data that if you were conscious of it, you wouldn't use. And so that's why I think that data-driven recruitment is very important, because it's not only using like data, like structuring the process, it's making sure that you use the right data instead of another one that you wouldn't be aware of.
This is why I love talking to you, Jean-Marie. This is why I love having our coffee chats. Always learn something new. And just for all of you that wanted to know, I just checked. Gandhi was actually 78 when he died. I just checked.
Okay, all right.
I couldn't help myself without knowing this.
This is a number. This is a number I think that I've never checked myself. So thank you. You've taught me something too. But I love this experiment. But so this, we said that data driven is important. We just showed why. But so how would you frame this problem? How would you define that?
I think what it comes down to, there's a number of different factors. Number one is how do you ensure the data that you need is going in? Two, how do you make sure that you can access all the data? Because typically data is stored in all these different tools, and it's very, very difficult to get access to this information. Like we're doing a study. Actually, I'm going to use this as a plug. We're doing a study at the moment into the rec ops and talent intelligence, because we felt that there was some information missing here. And we've nearly had 200 people respond so far. I can't remember the last time I checked, but it's about like 80% of the people have responded saying that getting access to the information, access to the data is one of the hardest things to do, right? So anyway, number one,
I've just put in the comments the link to the study. It's
Okay,
5
yeah.
minutes. So
Yeah.
to the people watching us, if you haven't completed it, please help us with that, and we'll be happy to invite you to one of our events where we will be presenting the results of this study.
September.
In September. Yeah.
So we have the if anybody can fill that in, that would be great. So how do you ensure that it goes in? How do you make sure you get access to all of the different systems instead of having to go to something like LinkedIn and manually copy and paste every single thing that you've done in the past to make sure that it's that you're getting the right information from LinkedIn, and all of the reports that you've got to run every week or 2 weeks or monthly, however often you have to do that with your managers or upwards. But I think even before that, you have to understand how to frame a problem, how to understand what problem you're solving for, which comes from design thinking. And it's like, how might we do X? Okay. And this is how your problem statement should, like, what are you actually fixing for? What are you aiming for? And without all this information, you just can't do this. Right. And you shouldn't be trying to measure, track, and report on everything, because you're just going to be you'll have death by over analysis, because you'll have, it's called analysis paralysis, because you've got too much information and you don't know where to go and what to do with it. And then you need to understand, how do you actually turn this into something? So you've got all this data everywhere, then you're going to have to clean it up. You're going to have to put it in some kind of structured way and what we call normalize the data, so everything can be comparable. Then you need some kind of control, like a dashboard, so you can visually see it, and everyone loves a good dashboard, right? And then from that, you need to start doing the analysis based on, what problem you're trying to solve. So like, which one of these metrics should be the metric that's going to help us drive the best outcome for the problem you've got right now.
Yes, and so right now, if I may, is the important information, like because you will work on a lot of different stuff in your process. You can't do everything at once, but you focus on one thing and you give yourself a time period, like with a target. Maybe it won't be enough. Maybe it will be too big. Well, doesn't matter. You have like you have framed it in time, and so you know when you need to look for the data.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep having balloons pop up on my screen.
I was wondering if it was something like your birthday or...
Just enjoying it so much. There's an AI behind there. The more balloons, the more that I'm enjoying the conversation. So it comes down to what should we go into? Should we talk about like creating the controls, or how do we get people to put the right data in?
Well,
without like telling them you're not getting paid, right? Like we can't go this far, but we do need some kind of control. Have you ever seen any examples of this? It doesn't have to be in recruitment, or there could be, I don't know, it could be anything.
Actually, you mentioned one. You mentioned the consistency, for example, when you're using Spendesk. Spendesk, sorry.
Yes, Spendesk. So, yes, I forgot about that. So what Spendesk does, this is not recruitment, but you could see how this could be applied to recruitment, right? So Spendesk is like a prepaid card for anybody that doesn't know. And it's to give all your employees who need to use it for expenses, whatever you might be doing. But there's a limit on how much you can use it every month. And their control to make sure they don't end up with a nightmare in accounting is that once you've used your card, if you don't upload the receipts within a certain time period, they block the card so you can't use it. Okay. Which it's policing of it. But what they found was, well, from what I understood from someone that worked there, is that people wouldn't update it. And then accounting becomes very difficult, and then it becomes a nightmare. So you could try and put those kind of controls in the recruitment team at the beginning, maybe, until it becomes a habit.
I recognize this coming from like a finance team. Maybe in HR, we will use more of the carrot instead of the stick. I don't know about that. But I love this example. Maybe we should try like to put some kind of a gamification or some kind of a message that is delivered. But we'll have to think about that, actually.
Yeah, maybe if anyone's watching this in any time in an ATS company, maybe this could be a good suggestion. On that note, if anybody that is watching has any questions or comments, please ask.
We have one, actually.
Oh yeah, go on, go.
We have one from Dan Barsley. Thank you, Dan, for your question. So if you could only track three recruitment metrics for a startup with 130 employees that will scale to around 300 over the next 2 years, what will they be? I feel like we're being interviewed, and this is a use case in recruitment process.
Hang on a minute. It's a good question. It's a common question. I mean, you've got to come down to what problems have you got right now? What's the main challenge you have? Because, I'm not going to give a really good answer here, and then you can have a go. But I think it really comes down to understanding. You know what? Actually, I've got a good one for this. There was a guy called Ben Phillips, and he's an employer branding specialist, right? And he was on one of my podcasts, and he's absolutely brilliant, right? And one of the shorts I made of him that's going around, I'll share it afterwards. He was saying, right, I need to grow by, say, 200 people in the next year. That means we are going to need 2,000 applications, right? Have you got your recruitment system set up well enough to be able to process these 2,000 applications? So I would start at this, right? And what he talks a lot about when you need to do that type of scale, when it's quite a lot, is he starts talking about the quality of application, which is a very good metric. So it's you define the quality of the applications, and I think that's quite a good. That I would definitely consider that metric. I don't know. Please chip in because I'm going to go on one otherwise.
That's a good callback to the video we did on the quality of hire. If you want to watch it, it's available on the our YouTube channel. Well, I like that. Myself, I would say if we're going from 130 to 300 employees, if that's the goal, how did we go from 1 to 130, or let's say maybe from 20 to 130? What's the situation like? A lot of times companies think that scalability in a recruitment team is mostly about using more people and maybe a couple of other tools. But it's not how it works. It doesn't scale by addition. You have to rethink the process. And so what worked best when you got to the 130, and if what worked best, can you still do it? And you can use the definition and the example given by John for that. Like if you want to imagine a funnel and a bigger volume. So what worked best? What are you sure won't work? And that way you can already see what are your areas of improvement. If you know, like, for example, you know that you can handle in terms of interview, I would focus on sourcing metrics. If you are a famous company because for whatever reason you have a B2C side and your brand is already known, how can you use that, and how does that translate into employer brand? If you are a company living in the shadows, like purely like a B2B SaaS in a very niche market, and people don't know what you do outside of your niche market, how then maybe you should focus on a couple of employer brand metrics to make sure that people in your niche are starting to get to know you better. So it's all about how you got there and how you and depending on your situation, how you imagine you could go to the next step.
Yeah, I think
it's the question.
I think that's this is a really common problem.
Yeah,
and there is no one right answer. I don't think. I think it's very contextually relevant to you based on what you've just said. But once you have defined those metrics, the most important thing is that you set up some kind of dashboard, right? You need to have some kind of visualization to track over time what's working and what's not. For example, if you do let's say you picked a number of applications or volume of applications or whatever, because of an activity that you did. You went to an event and you wanted to see the impact of going to that event, was that a good place to go? You should be tracking these things over time to see, like, what is your event strategy like? Did it actually work? Did it not work? What was a good one? What was not a good one? And not many companies do this, actually follow up on this. So I would definitely make sure that you set up some kind of dashboard. If you can't easily do that in your ATS, which I'm guessing most of you can't, because most ATSs suck, really, let's be honest. I'm putting that out
Nobody
there.
is ever happy with their ATS, and everybody's asking for a change, but they change for an ATS that someone else is not happy about.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that's not about the tool; it's about what we do with them.
Exactly, because you kind of end up you have to measure what they allow you to measure. But really and basically and simply, you could use something like you know what? If I would suggest using really primitive, use Sheets or Excel, or use Airtable. Okay, Airtable is a little bit of a step up, but it's an actual database, and it also has interfaces that are super easy to set up. So you put all your data in there. You can manually put it, or you can automatically upload data periodically, and then you can set these little dashboards up inside. Set a dashboard up inside these things called interfaces, and they're super easy. It's like drag and drop. You select the data you want to put in there, and you've got a really nice, compelling dashboard that shows you traction over time, and it can give you all the initiatives you've worked on, the impact it's had, that type of stuff. That's quite a good. I think that would be quite.
I think that's a great advice. And if you are struggling with building the table, if I may give another advice to the people who are watching this video, it's try to find within your company, like a management controller or a financial controller, someone whose job is to make data talk and who is used to make tables. These people might not have a lot of free time to give you, but they might be able to give you some advice. So you start building a table that's usable through time, and not something that you will just put once and not be able to update, because that's the important thing. You need to visualize the data, but you need to follow it. You need to track it. And if you don't like the tool you're using, it will end up like your ATS if you don't use it. Like, you won't use your table either. So
no.
There's no
and
point.
This is it. I was going to say marketing are really good at that as well, because they're constantly monitoring traffic. They're monitoring the SEO. They're monitoring the website traffic, all that type of stuff. I think they're quite good to talk to.
Yes.
The next thing we were going to talk about was I wanted to ask you something.
Yes, please do.
So, from whose responsibility is it to help the team take data-driven decisions? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it does, but could you give a couple more of context to make sure that I get it right?
Let's say, for example, I've seen a number of teams that can take these kind of decisions very effectively, and then other teams that can't take these effectively. And typically, a lot of it comes down to the management and the leaders in those teams, because they might not give them the access to the data. They might not empower them to try things. They might not give them the responsibility to go away and implement new projects and stuff like that based on what their data is telling them and what they've presented. So I just wondered if you've got any tips to a leader on how they can empower their team to take these types of decisions.
Yes. Well, first, they need to show why it matters. So I think that visualization can be good and can help, not only on the data, but visualization on the process. Hold on. I have a very good book. I will put the reference later in the comments, but I have a good book about how you can use Duolingo to make sense of what you're trying to explain. So visualization is key, and then you just have to show the example and start showing that you make decisions on a day-to-day. Like, let's example that you are a people director or a TA director, shows that the decisions that you make are based on data. Because if you expect your recruiter to make data-driven decisions, you have to show that you make data decisions as well. I lost the focus here. It seems like a bit blur. Oh, that's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, for example, if you need to address budget between, like, let's say your team is split into like tech positions and non-tech positions, and half your recruiters are dealing with ones, half the recruiters are dealing with the others. How do you manage when you get the budget, when you get a new tool? Do you think that some are tougher than others? Well, if that's what you think, show it through the data. Why is it tough? Why is it tougher? And based on which data? So make decisions that you can back up with data, and then people will start to get into the culture, the data-driven culture. But you can't expect them to do it if you just make decisions based on your gut feeling, even if you have a strong experience. Because I'm not saying that you're making bad decisions. I'm saying that you need to show to your team, to show them how it works, how you can use the data. Yeah. On the other hand, if you have issues with because let's imagine that you are a people director or TA director and you are convinced about data-driven recruitment, because most of the time that's what I see. Honestly, this is a topic most recruitment and HR leaders are very on board with data-driven, making data-driven decisions. Where you can find some, let's say, obstacles could be working with the hiring managers, because they say, it's going to be new tools, new data to get in. We don't have the time. They already don't send you the interview notes. So how do you do? So I think that from time to time, it's good to get external help from like consultants specialized in change management or on this kind of topic.
For a period of time to help get you set up in the right way.
Yes, and from time to time, just having someone from saying the same things that you do, coming from outside, helps making better decisions. I have an example. I used once to work for a company where I did a complete mapping of the user experience, and based on the data, we arrived to a conclusion that we needed to open a specific social media channel. I'll kill another one. And so I pleaded my case with the data. And so the person who was making the decision told me, I'm not convinced, but I had the data. So I said, okay, I don't have enough data. So I built more data. I built a stronger case. Again, this person told me, I'm not really convinced. So, you have to choose your battle. So I was 6 months working on this project. And at some time I was, thinking, okay, maybe that's not the right idea at the time. And then I get invited in this manager's office, and he tells me, you know what? I just talked to a consultant, and he told me that we should open this social media channel. And this was exactly what I was pleading for. And I was like, oh yeah, great idea. But so from time to time, it's just it's better when you have some support to make the project move. So, and change management can be useful.
Yeah. I have another example of this, and I completely forgot about this, but I was working with a security company. We were like an RPO and we were on board, and I was working with a head of people. And the biggest issue they had was tracking the hiring plan versus the live state of play, so where were they actually in all their processes and stuff like that. So what we did, we built in Airtable like traffic light system style tracking tool, and so instead of the shit hitting the fan and being like, oh my God, like we are so behind on hiring, you could see it coming, right? And one of the other things this allowed us to do, it allowed us to actually allocate certain amount of the recruitment budget, because we were allowed to be a part of the budget when we was in the RPO, to say, right, well, actually, we need to spend more money on these staff engineers, because if we don't, we are already going to be getting up to the third quarter, and we wouldn't have hired anyone for it, right? So let's try and use some budget towards this. But to even get to the conversation about spending some of the budget, you had to show that there was a problem coming. And this was a really good way of doing it, right? Because you can show, look, we're ahead of target on all of these, but this is the crux. This is where the biggest problem is. And you could visualize it, you could tell the story, and you could show them what's going to happen if they don't do something about it. And then after that, you can go into more about, well, what would be the best solutions and stuff like that. And you take more decisions based on that.
That's a good example and great story. So we mentioned that we should limit the amount of time of analyzing the data. Maybe we could give a bit more information about why we insist on that. Why you should not analyze the data over a long period of time. I mean, you can, but why we say you should focus on one specific at a time and having a specific period of time. Do you want to talk a bit about it?
Yeah, feel free to interject at any point. But I think that comes down to two things. One, I mentioned it before. If you are trying to solve a specific problem, and you keep looking at the data, and you're like, well, I need more data. And then eventually you have so much of it, you have this analysis paralysis.
So analysis paralysis you were talking about.
And that's an actual thing, right? I haven't just made this up to sound fancy.
No, but if I may add, this is the exact same bias that happens when you submit too many candidates to a hiring managers.
Yes.
Recruiters, there's a time when too many candidates won't help, and you know that, but that's backed by science.
Yes.
So at the moment, you should just say, no, we don't have more candidates for this role. But that's for another talk.
That's why they talk about the rule of 5 CVs, 3 interviews, 1 offer, right? Like, this is why it all comes back down to that. So you can have this, and what that means is that you're over analyzing the problem, and then eventually you can't take a decision because you have no idea what to do. There's too much. Your brain can't process that. And then there's the other point, which is about the number of metrics that you're tracking. If you've got too much, again, it comes back to the same point. It's, where do you focus? And you might not have complete data all the time, and you'll end up having more and more problems. Exactly like you were saying, Jean-Marie, you start inventing other data points that don't exist to try and make sense of what you're seeing. And the other thing, we are not, as recruiters, data engineers or data specialists. We're not. There's a Su Ling. She's got 2 PhDs in data. Right? I love talking to her. She's just so pleasant to speak to, and she's in the startup space, but she still does writing papers and stuff all the time. But she always said to me, just keep it simple when it comes to data, and have good quality data. That's the most important thing. And she always says as well, this is why AI is never going to take the role of a recruiter anytime soon. There's just not enough data points. We can't even define what 3 metrics we need to process to manage scaling in a company, let alone getting an AI to take over right now. Right? I might eat my words in 10 years' time, but for now, I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. But that's what she said to me. There's just too much data required for it to make really, really good decisions on that. Go on, were you going to say something?
No. I will have one more question for you about that. But first, I would like to say 2 things to the people who are watching the video. There's only a few minutes left with us, so if you have any questions, that's the right time to put it in the LinkedIn comments. Well, if you're watching this video not live, but you're watching the replay, you can still contact us with a question. We have actually one question for you. We are preparing a special video where we will talk about sourcing, and we are having people asking us sourcing questions, and through kind of a game, both John and I will try to answer it. So it's not the topics that we talk about the most, but we're still doing it because in the end, we're both recruiters. So if you want to, you can send us a quick sourcing question. You can send us through a text, or you can record yourself doing a 15 to 20 seconds selfie video asking the question if you want to, and we will try to answer to it in one of our next videos. Moving back to the topic, there's one question I want to ask John. Is I know that you have a podcast that's called the Holistic Recruiters. This holistic approach to recruitment is very dear to you. How will that translate into data-driven recruitment?
That's a good question. I think we are becoming more and more as leaders in recruitment, having to be a cross-functional leader, right? I talked to Pierre Arnold about this a lot. He's the global head of TA at Back Market, and what that means is you have to operate with so many different teams, understand so many things that could affect the recruitment process. You can't just be focused on time to hire, right? You can't just be focused on that, right? You have to understand the impact of employer branding efforts on what's going on in the market. Is there news that could influence the recruitment when it comes to your brand and your business? You know, is there stuff that your team are posting about in their own personal spaces that could affect the metrics that you're doing? So my point is, it's just take a step back again, see the bigger picture, understand the problem you're solving for, and always keep coming out. Okay, keep coming out of the problem to be sure that it's still the right problem to be looking at. That's what I would say in that holistic. Just keep pulling yourself out. Force yourself. You can't be in the trenches fighting all the time. You have to come out to see what's going on, or otherwise people will be flanking you and then you won't know what to do, right? So always force yourself to come out. Even if you're really, really busy, I would time block some time for that. And there was one question I had for you, and I want to bring it up. It was about a metric that doesn't really get spoken about a lot, and how we can take decisions based on this. And it was the reasons for lost. So why did we lose candidates in a process? At what stage? Who was it that stopped the process? And who is measuring the reason for hired? So we can replicate those good things. So I just wondered, because I remember ages ago we spoke about this and you was like, I've got a pretty strong opinion on this, but we never got into it.
Yes, I actually have mixed feelings. Let's talk back about feelings. I have mixed feelings about this topic as a data. A data to make decisions. I think it's great to get the information as to why we hired someone or why we didn't hire someone. I say we didn't hire because maybe we didn't select them, or maybe they just went out of the process by themselves. So I think that's great. But my problem with that is most of the time, this is data based on either gut feeling or data. Let's split that. For the data, let's imagine you want to know why the people decided to quit the process. They're gonna give you an answer, but you are recruiters, you are HR. You know that they tell you what they think you should hear. They might not tell you, yeah, I met your hiring manager, and honestly, I have only bad things to tell about him. And that can happen. They're not gonna tell you, I told you that I was interested, but in the end, I was just playing your recruitment process so I could leverage something else. And it's okay, that happens, and that's part of the recruitment market. But so I think that the answers are kind of biased. So it's not good data. The way it's done at the moment, it's not good data. And if we make the reasons why we hired the people, it's a great metric to follow in time. If two things. First, we have it's not a metric. It's based on other metrics. Like we hired people because, for example, they were above the top 10% of the candidates during our recruitment process. Okay, but how do you measure your top 10%? Is that just like the ones that you thought were the best? Or do you actually measure it? Do you
like
have
Amazon, where Amazon used to? I don't know if they still do it, but you had to score in the test you had to score above the top 50% of people in the test. So it's continually improving, right?
Yeah, they were always trying to take their phrase to raise the bar. Thank you for sharing that. And so I think that if you have good data and if you already have a good structured process, then it's good to measure why you hire people. Otherwise, it's just an information, and in a holistic approach, like you said, it's information that's good to know, but you can't put it on the same level as the data that you are measuring with a stronger like scientific basis.
Yeah. So I agree with you and I disagree with you in some way. Where I disagree is, so I agree that it could end up, you're not getting the true answer, right? Because not everyone's going to tell you why. But the fact is, you can still tell if it was the candidate that dropped the process, or it was the company that dropped the process,
Yes.
or was it the hiring manager that dropped the process, or was it the TA that dropped the process? Then you can start to see some commonalities. And if you were to then overlay, sorry, I'm getting really geeky now, but if we start like crossing over the data between when they dropped and which of the people dropped that process, whether it was one of those three that we just mentioned, then it might start to tell a story. You know, it could be that candidates are dropping every time they speak to a certain manager, but all the people are saying they just found another job, or they're not interested in the process anymore. That doesn't really tell us anything. Yes. However, there is an outlet. There is something now telling us a story that, hang on a minute, David, who's interviewing, is not doing a very good job here. You know, like, you know, so this is also quite.
This is really great insight. So, and what that tells us that people fill in your ATS, fill it right.
Yeah, if you fill in your ATS, but yeah, exactly. And I think this is it. And then you can start to see, is there a certain number of candidates that are coming from a certain source that are getting lost very early in the stage, or are they getting further, you know? And then you can start measuring the impact of a particular tool or source you use and that type of stuff. So I think there's many.
I love your views on this.
To do on this.
Thank you for sharing that. And what you did right here is very interesting, because you see, you took like a data that we thought we couldn't make sense of, and you just took the part that was not safe, and you said, okay, but there's something we can still measure. And I think that's a thinking process that should be applied to all the data that's used during the process.
And I think that's it. It's just about thinking, how can we use the good data, and what do we do with it, right? I've enjoyed this chat.
I did too, like always. So we were expecting to do like every Tuesday, but we wanted to be able to.
We're too tired dads. We can't do every Tuesday right now.
So at the moment, our rhythm is one Tuesday out of two, but might change in the future. Yeah. Just be sure to subscribe to all the channels that we can have, and add the connection if you didn't yet, so you can get the information. So in terms of channel, of course, there's LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn right now, John and I. You have a podcast, so the Holistic Recruiter podcast.
Yeah. You can easily find it, like anything. If you just type in the Holistic Recruiter Club on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, you can find it quite easily. Or just have a look at my LinkedIn and you'll see a link to it somewhere. Yeah. Mondays and Thursdays I post.
Mondays and Thursdays. Okay, all right. And I saw that you launched a TikTok as well.
No, did I?
No, yeah, you did.
Yes, I did. To be fair, I'm just repurposing it as a test, as we like to push each other to test different tools and stuff like that. And it's just holistic.recruiter. It's just a different channel to see how that works too.
Okay. Is there any other channels that we can find your content on?
Substack, but I've only just started that, so we can leave that one off for now. And how about you? Where can people follow you?
Well, you can go into WorkMeTender and through the blog. So I have 2/3 of content in French and 1/3 in English. So you still have it. Need to translate the rest. And I have WMT, the newsletter, going out every Friday morning. Again, it's in French. Sorry about that. But between John and I, we still have to address our two publics.
Download, if any of you using Google Chrome, there is a very good it's a very good widget called Google Translate. Okay, and it's a widget that sits on your Chrome. It's an extension, and you just click the button, click Translate, and you can read everything, and it will pick it up very well. So definitely use this to read Jean-Marie's content, because it is really high quality. It's like evidence-based, research-driven, and there's not many people that are writing as quality, in-depth stuff like this from scratch. So definitely subscribe to this.
Well, thanks a lot for that, John. People, it was great. Thank you. I see that we've had a few people with us here, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
us.
feedback, please. If anybody liked it and didn't like it for any reason or whatever, please give us feedback. It's the only way we can get better. We're doing this in public because we enjoy talking to each other, and it kind of like pushes us to think about things a little bit more in depth. And we thought, well, why keep this here? Let's keep it in the public to see if anybody else has points that can challenge us. So please, any feedback is welcome.
Thank you, John. Have a nice afternoon. Always a pleasure.
See you later. Bye-bye.